Hello, welcome to Jason the Old Millennial. My name is Jason. I'm speaking to you here in my basement in the great state of Kansas. And today I'm doing a movie review of a Blu ray that I own, one of my favorite movies. And we are going back in time, yeah. Back to the Future. This actually is the Blu ray for all three. It's a 30th anniversary Back to the Future. There's the first movie, I think, Back to the Future, and it kind of has some pictures and talks about the bonus features on there, but it has them for all the movies, anyways. Really cool. I love this Blu-ray I got recently. Um, Back to the Future came out in 1985. Stars Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd, Leah Thompson, Crispin Glover, and Thomas F. Wilson. Directed by Robert Zemeckis. Robert Zemeckis, really well-known, really great filmmaker. Really, this is his first really huge hit. He did *Romancing the Stone* before this, which kind of was his first hit movie, but then *Back to the Future* really made him famous. He did a lot of other great stuff. Of course, *Forrest Gump*, probably his biggest hit ever. Won Best Picture and Best Director for Robert Zemeckis. Also did like *Who Framed Roger Rabbit*, *Castaway*, *Polar Express*, *Flight*, or some of his other big hits at this time. Anyway, so one of my favorite directors, I would say, because I'm a big fan of all those movies. This one being my favorite, though, for sure, is *Back to the Future*, the one that really made his name, I would say. It was also co-written by Robert Zemeckis and his writing partner, Bob Gale, who wrote a lot of the movies with him. This was nominated for only 4 Oscars, which I was shocked. I can't believe it wasn't nominated for more. And it won one Oscar, and that was for best sound effects editing, which I can understand. A lot of sounds with the car and going through time and what's going through that, I'm guessing. It was nominated for best sound, but didn't win for some reason. Nominated for best screenplay, which totally makes sense. I talk about a lot about the screenplay being so great. Also nominated for best original song by Huey Lewis and the News, "The Power of Love," which is interesting because it's just a Huey Lewis and the News pop song. More than just an Oscar type song, but it was nominated, which I enjoy. I like that song a lot, so I don't know what won that year, but I wouldn't mind that winning. That was, I thought, I like a good catchy pop song like that. That's probably that one, Back in Time, are the two best songs in here, but it's a good score overall, I think, or a good soundtrack overall, thanks to them. And talk about, if you don't know Back to the Future, I'll talk a little bit about the synopsis of this movie. Of course, it's about Marty McFly, high school student, who has a friend named Doc Brown, or Emmett Brown. They call him Doc Brown. Doc Brown, he's able to invent time travel by kind of stealing or kind of tricking Libyans and getting plutonium to make them a bomb. But instead of uses the plutonium, puts it into a DeLorean, which is a type of car at the time, and invents a car time machine where you get in the car and you go 85. You put the plutonium in, you go 88 miles per hour, and you can control what time you're going through, anyways. So, of course, that's how he does time travel. The Libyans find out. They find him. They kill Doc Brown. Marty McFly gets in the car. As he's racing away, he travels through time because he goes 88 miles per hour trying to get away from the Libyans, terrorists that are trying to kill him. And he goes back to the car is set to 1955, 30 years earlier. This is 1985 is the current date. And as he's in 1955, he runs into his parents, George McFly, his mom. Mostly first George McFly, and then his parents met when his mother's dad accidentally hits George McFly with his car when he was in the street. And he goes in and saves George McFly from getting hit from the car, gets hit from himself, and he ruins the moment that his parents meet and fall in love. Of course, they get married and they have kids. So if his parents don't meet and fall in love, get married, then he'll never exist. So he basically just took out his own existence and his siblings' existence on accident, which is really interesting, the concept. And so then the rest of the movie is him trying to convince his dad, or trying to get his dad to try to fall in love with his mom as they're high school teenagers, have them fall in love, so that they will get married and have kids, so he will exist. So very important, very high stakes, very interesting plot point. Anyway, so then yeah, so that's what happens. He gets them together, and then he also has to figure out a way to get back to 1985 because there's no plutonium that he's readily available in 1955. But they figured out that they know exactly when the lightning's going to strike the tower, and if he hits this wire at the time that the lightning hits, it'll give him enough power, like plutonium, to as he's going 88 miles per hour, it'll have enough energy to send him back to 1985. And so that's basically the plot. Try to get your parents back together so you can exist, and also try to get back to 1985. So you don't totally screw up, time, and screw up the world because of your antics. Anyway, so that's the plot. My own backstory with this movie is it's a movie I've seen since I was a kid. I don't know if we ever had like a VHS tape of this movie. I feel like I've seen it a lot as a kid. Maybe it's been on TV. I don't know. We probably had a VHS tape somewhere because I remember pretty vividly, watching this movie quite a bit as a kid, and always a huge fan of this movie. It was a big, one of the big movies as a kid. I think I was only 2 years old when the movie came out, so I wasn't old enough to go to the movie theater to watch it. So it was much later when I say much later. I mean, I don't know when I first saw it, either the late 80s, early 90s. But I mean, I was pretty young. And so this movie's always been, something I've been aware of my whole life. And something every time it's on TV, I watch it, and I just like it so much. And over time, it's become one of my favorite movies ever. Every time I watch it, I think I like it even more, and I catch more, or I see more in it than I didn't catch before. And I just go, man, this is such a great movie. I love this movie. It's on all the time on TNT or TBS or something, so you can always catch it. Anyways, that's mostly what I guess my backstory with it. Nothing huge, but it's always been a favorite movie of mine. And watching this recently, how it holds up? It holds up amazing. I mean, now we're in 2021, so we're 30 some years, 35, 36 years afterwards, and it's still, I'm 37, so yeah, about 35 years afterwards, it's still just as good as it was, or even better when I was a kid. I mean, it still holds up so well. Such a great movie. First thing is the screenplay. You start with a great screenplay. It'll always stand the time. Always be good. The test of time. I think I was thinking. It always stands the test of time if you have a good screenplay. That's always important. And this is maybe one of the top screenplays of all time. Of course, it deals with time travel, so you have to deal a lot with introducing ideas at the beginning and then paying them off at the end. And this does such a great job of introducing all these ideas at the beginning, like the clock tower and the lightning. Of course, and that pays off later. And then just seeing, Marty's family in 1985, and then seeing them in 1955, and seeing how there's a lot of things that happened in 1980 that happened in both eras that are the same. So it was very funny how, George is bullied by Biff in 85 as an adult, but he was also bullied in 1955. But instead of being bullied by his boss, Biff, he's bullied by the school bully, Biff, back in 1955. And so it's funny to see those parallels, all that. Anyways, and just wonderfully written. How I think maybe one of the greatest ideas ever I've seen is the idea that you go back in time, you stop something from happening, and you might not exist. Like accidentally stopping your parents from getting together. Now you can't exist because if your parents don't get together and don't have babies, you're not alive anymore. And the idea that we find that out by him looking at a picture of himself and his siblings from 1985, and he sees them starting to disappear from the picture. So that was such a great idea of showing how if I disappear from this picture from 1985, that means I'm not going to exist anymore. I can't exist because that means my parents never got together and never had kids. Anyway, so this idea of keep looking at the picture to see if I'm still there, to see if I still exist in the future, such a great idea. Just a brilliant, one of the reasons why I love this movie so much, and I think it's such a great written movie. I watched a lot of like reaction YouTubers, and a lot of them is they react to movies for the first time, that the classics that they've never seen before. And I've seen a lot where they react to Back to the Future they never seen before. And the first thing they always talk about is like, man, what a great screenplay. I mean, this is a master screenplay. And I've even heard some people say that they teach the screenplay to film students. When if you go to a lot of film classes, they will look at the screenplay and say, this is how you write a great screenplay. Anyway, so just say screenplay is really great. Other thing is the comedy is so good. It works so well still. I've seen it, like I said, hundreds of times. I still laugh so much when I watch this movie, and I forget how good of a comedy it is because I think more of it as a sci-fi. It's a time travel movie. It's a sci-fi movie. It's got some big stakes, some big ideas. There's some adventure in there. But really, I think at its core, it's a comedy. I almost say it's more of a comedy than even a sci-fi movie. The comedy is really what brings this movie out, especially or I say Marty McFly, especially Michael J. Fox as the lead, and then Christopher Lloyd. And then also, I think Crispin Glover is absolutely hilarious in this movie. I think those three are just so funny when they're together, or maybe not all three together, but two of them are together in scenes. I mean, it's just comedy gold. And yeah, it's still, I watch this and it's so memorable, the lines and everything. I always, when I'm watching it now, I can almost say the lines before they say them because I remember them so well. But it's still so funny. So I think that's great. Like I said, I love time travel. The idea of time travel is such a great idea in movies that you travel back in time and change the future. It's always been an interesting concept to me, and I think this is probably does it the best I've ever seen out of a time travel movie. And it's great that they have a car. I think that really makes it even better that they can travel with a car with something mobile, which was a big idea that they came up with that really helped when they were moving the script forward. Is thinking of how to make a time travel machine. I think of some great time travel machines, time travel movies. Even like Avengers Endgame had time travel in it. Uh, Hot Tub Time Machine. People probably think about is it's a great time travel movie. I don't know if I'd say that, but it's definitely memorable. Um, but I think this one definitely does it the best I can think of in recent memory. So yeah, so I love the time travel idea and love the idea that you can erase your own existence on accident. So it's a great idea. And also love the idea that his current date, 1985, Marty McFly's life really isn't, that great. He's kind of this cool kid, I guess. He plays guitar. He has a good-looking girlfriend. He's gonna go on this like weekend on the beach with this. He has a nice car that he's gonna drive or whatever. But his parents are kind of losers. His dad especially gets walked all over by his boss Biff, and never stands up for himself. I don't know, it's kind of a loser. And his siblings are his brothers works at a fast food restaurant, I think, and I don't know, they're nothing big going on there, not a lot of success. His uncle I think is in jail. They keep talking about Uncle Joey. The mom, she just she was really pretty in high school. Of course, now she's older and kind of lost her looks and all that. I don't know. It's just it's not like terrible family, but yet it feels like Marty feels kind of out of place. Like there should be more. So what's interesting is when he goes back 1955, and then he almost erases existence. Then he gets his parents back together, but he's able to restore this confidence in his dad that his dad never had. Jordan McFly never had. He was kind of this, somewhat nerdy, somewhat, like I said, very easy to bully, to walk over. He does whatever you say. Not very good with the ladies kind of guy. And he kind of helps restore some confidence in him and to believe in himself. And the things that he does, by accidentally almost erasing existence, he actually makes everything better, which I thought was such a great idea. That and when you come back at the end of the movie and you come back to 1985, you find his dad's actually very successful. They're somewhat wealthy, and his siblings are more successful, and his brother has a really has a job with a suit and tie, and they have a nice, really even nicer car than before. And Biff is actually working for them, kind of not working for them, but he polishes their car. So the bully now is the one that's working for the dad. And so all this stuff happens because of what he did. He actually accidentally makes his life even better by going back in time. Anyway, so it's such a great concept, the idea that, and it's a great ending. I love the ending of this movie and how that all plays out together. Um, Anyways, and the last thing I'm gonna say is the musical score is great. I love this musical score. It's one of the great ones. Dun 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 dun. I don't know. It's got this great, during those times when everything seems to be going wrong, and all of a sudden, like he's trying to get the car to start, and then the car starts, and then the music hits, and then he's going and trying to hit the wire when the lightning hits, and like that music swells up, and you're just like excited, like oh my god, like so exciting. It's just so great, and Alvin Silvestri, such a great musical score composer. It's funny, I didn't know much about him. In fact, I swore this was like a John Williams score because I love John Williams music, and so I just assumed this was one of his. And so I was kind of surprised, like, oh, it's not John Williams, it's Alan Silvestri, which I didn't really know him except recently in the Avenger movies, the Marvel Avengers. He does a score for those movies, and those scores I think are great. I love his scores there. And so then when I found out he also did this, I'm like, oh yeah, he's always been great. Since 1985, he's been had so many great scores out there. So, anyways, so I love a good score, and this is great. I talked about my favorite scene of the movie. A lot of great, memorable scenes here. But my favorite's always been the somewhat more emotional scene. I don't know if emotional is the right word, but it really gets me going is when George McFly punches Biff and knocks him out. When he goes to Marty's in the car with his mom, and he has this plan where George is gonna open the door and then grab Marty, like Marty's like sexually harassing his mom or something, and he's gonna grab him out and then kind of staying up for honor, and that's the way they're gonna fall in love. But then Biff gets involved and grabs Marty and pulls him out, and then he's going to like sexually assault Leah Thompson's character. And then George comes upon the scene, and it's not Marty McFly, it's now Biff, the bully, the big bully that he's afraid of. And now he has to really stand up for himself, not just pretend, but now he's got to really, be a man and stand up to this bully and tell him, you're not going to, harm this woman that I like. And the fact that he does, and he tries to punch him, Biff catches him and bends his arm back, and he's in pain. And he's sitting there, and it's this great moment where all you kind of hear music kind of swelling up, but you hear Biff's laugh. It's great. Biff's laughing because he's beating up on George, and then you see, he pushes Lorraine. I think it's Lorraine. Yeah, the mom. He pushes the mom down, and then you can see a close up of George's face, and he's upset. And then they close up on the fist. So great how the fist is like this, and then it closes up like this, close up, so a punch is coming. And then it goes back to Biff, and Biff's like, well, he's laughing, and he stops, like, oh, you're gonna punch me? And then George punches him, sends him spinning, hits the car, falls down, knocked out. And the way the music just swells up at that moment that he punches him, and then it stops, I think, it like kind of stops as he says, are you okay, to Lorraine? And that's a moment they fall in love. I don't know, it's such a great scene. Like, I always stop every time I see that scene. I have to watch it closely because I love the way it's shot and the way the music's played, and such a great momentum part of the film, really, because it's really the part where George McFly exists again because he's being erased from the photo. But then once he punches him, they fall in love. Marty's picture comes back on the photo, so he gets to live again, or he gets to continue to live, which is great. That's the big part of the character, is getting to live again. So it's such a great momentum moment. Like I said, and there's so many great moments of when he has to hit the wire, and Doc McBrown has to hit, get the wires together, so then lightning hits the clock tower and goes through the wire, hits the car, so the car can go back. Also great. And then the great reveal of Doc Brown. You think he's dead, but then because he tells Doc Brown, he writes a letter about Doc Brown dying, and then at the end, Doc Brown isn't dead. He wore a bulletproof vest because he read the letter, and the reveal that he's alive is a really emotional scene because you really get this great chemistry between Doc Brown and Marty McFly, and that they're really good friends, even though he's a high schooler and he's kind of a guy probably in his 50s. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but yeah, you still get this great chemistry between the friendship between them, and the fact that he's still alive. Such a great emotional scene. Anyway, so many great scenes in this movie, but I just wanted to touch on that. My favorite character in the movie, it's almost hard to say. It's almost a tie between, I say, Marty McFly, played by Michael J. Fox, the main character, and Doc Brown, played by Christopher Lloyd. I mean, overall, I'd say Doc Brown has always been my favorite character in this series, in this whole series. Played with Christopher Lloyd. He's so funny. It's kind of this eccentric kind of character, you know. He's got these, great Scott, one of the great lines are 21 gigawatts, as he freaks out because of how many gigawatts it takes to power up a time machine. I love those scenes, he's great throughout. And like I said, Michael J. Fox, definitely, for both of them maybe, but Michael J. Fox especially, to me, real star-making movie for him. He's great in it. I talk a little bit about the Blu-ray I got anyways. This is the 30th. I don't know how many other, of course they always make tons of Blu-rays out of these movies. But this is great. It has so many special features on it. Lots of making of, and there's some old special features that are on here, and then there's some new ones that they added. I'm talking to especially Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale talk about the making of, and they interview like Michael J. Fox and Leah Thompson and Christopher Lloyd get a lot of time on here. Crispin Glover is not on here, and Thomas F. Wilson's not here, which is too bad because I like Thomas Wilson as the bad guy Biff. But mostly those three get a lot, or those get the most of the interviews on here. I said there's a Q&A with Michael J. Fox. Lots of behind the scenes on their outtakes are great. There's of course they talk about Michael J. Fox wasn't the first pick. They picked I think Eric Stoltz first, but then that didn't work out, so then they got Michael J. Fox. But he was on a hit TV show, so it was hard to get him, and all that you probably heard before. It's really interesting. There's a QA commentary with director Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale, and there's also an overall movie commentary by Zemeckis and Bob Gale, which is a really great commentary, of course, because he talks about how he came up with the concept of the idea and how he got the movie made, which is a really fascinating story in itself, and that Bob Gale kind of, was thinking he was going through a high school yearbook of his father and seeing a photo of him and then thinking, I wonder if I would have been my father's friend if we were both in high school at the same time, This interesting concept of, what were your parents like when they were in high school? Much different than they are now as your parents, as these adults. Anyways, and so that was kind of the concept that started it. And they kind of came with this idea of, going back in time and meeting your parents. It's kind of the concept of it. And then it kind of grew from there. And then Zemeckis, he had made some movies before this, but none of them were successful. So he wasn't a big-time director yet. And when they wrote the script and they chopped it around different places. It was funny. A lot of studios said it wasn't edgy enough. They really wanted more edgy type material at that time. I guess it was real popular. They chopped it to Disney. Disney said it was too edgy because there's this whole, Marty McFly's mom Lorraine kind of has a hots for him, but she doesn't know that. Of course, it's his future son. She just thinks it's another high schooler, that new kid. Anyways, but they thought that was pretty controversial that, the mom was trying to kiss him, but of course it's the younger mom when they're in high school. Anyways, that was very controversial at the time, and Disney thought it was too edgy. So they either weren't edgy enough or too edgy for the people, and so nobody wanted make the movie. And then he made Romancing the Stone. Romancing the Stone was a huge hit, so it got him a lot of credibility there. And Steven Spielberg, who produces, big-time producer. In fact, it says Steven on the Blu-ray. It says Steven Spielberg presents Back to the Future. So Spielberg, of course, hugely popular at this time. One of the most popular directors at this time in 1985. really liked the script and really wanted to make the movie, really want to produce it, so that helped. Having Spielberg back him up, anyways, of course. And once *Romancing the Stone* was a hit, and then all the studios were like, "Yeah, let's do your movie because now you're a hit director," you know. So once you become, it's one of those things where nobody wants you until you know, have some success, have something to back it up, and then everybody wants you. And anyway, so then once he got the movie made, of course, it was a huge success. It was like I think I want to say the biggest box office hit of that year. I mean, hugely successful. Anyways, so it's an interesting story there that he talks a lot about in there. Anyways, that's a little bit there. So overall, I'm giving my grade on this a 5 out of 5 stars, which is excellent. This is an excellent movie. It's one of the greatest movies I've ever seen, and every time I see it, I love it so much more and more. I never get tired of it. Like I said, comedy still works, screenplay, the story still works so great, all the performances, everything. It's like a perfect movie to me. There's nothing I can say that I don't like about this movie, or anything wrong, or anything they can improve on. It's just a great fun time, I think, to watch. And of course, most everybody's probably seen this movie before, but if you haven't seen it, definitely got to watch it again. Or if you haven't seen it in a while, oh man, just see it again. Buy the Blu-ray, great Blu-ray. I'll talk about the other two movies in future vlogs here because I'm a fan of the whole trilogy and all. Anyway, so yeah, so I love this movie. So thanks again for watching this video, and thank you for commenting. I love reading comments. Tell me what you think about this movie, what your first experience is with it, what's your favorite parts of it. I'd love to listen or to read them and comment back, and appreciate your support. And thank you, and have a great day.